Howdy folks, Jamboriki here. My last video took over most of my December, so I'm having to do a couple of Christmas movies in January now. Better late than ever, I guess. Today, I'll be discussing Disney's The Santa Claus. Scott Calvin, played by Tim Allen, is a successful toy company executive, but he's kind of a half-assed father. When Scott's son Charlie comes to stay for Christmas, Scott's ex-wife Laura insists that Charlie shouldn't believe in Santa, because she doesn't want to set him up for disappointment, and her husband Neil agrees. However, that night, Charlie hears a noise on the roof and wakes up his dad. When Scott spots the real Santa on the roof, Saint Nick is startled so much that he falls off and is killed. Scott examines Santa's suit, only to find out that he now has the responsibility of taking over as the next Kris Kringle. He spends the night delivering presents, then the reindeers drop the father and son off at the North Pole, where an elf called Bernard explains that Scott has become the new boss. Over the next year, Scott must work out if he can commit to being Santa Claus again, while he also begins physically changing into Father Christmas. Laura and Neil start worrying about Scott's transformation, believing that he's gone crazy. So Neil suggests that maybe Scott should lose custody to Charlie, and a judge agrees. Scott finally decides to embrace his Santa Claus role, but will Laura and Neil change their minds about the separation? The Santa Claus is certainly a very Christmassy movie, so much so that I can see exactly why kids would get festive feels from it. I mean, there's some enchanting intrigue to the North Pole, a secret underground world where elves look like kids. Plus I can totally imagine children finding humour and magic to the idea of a dad transforming into Kris Kringle himself. However, rewatching this movie as an adult, I can't help but feel like it's not aged very well. As magical as the movie can be, the Santa Claus has some questionable things in it that I can't simply ignore. For starters, this is a Disney film that opens with Father Christmas being killed by our lead character. Sure, it was an accident and Santa does get to wave goodbye, but it's just unnerving seeing a kids movie that begins with the comical death of a holiday icon. What's even stranger is that once Scott arrives in the North Pole, no one grieves the old Santa or background checks Scott Calvin. They just carry on as normal, act like this change isn't a big deal, and get huffy at Scott for being confused about what's going on.
What does that mean?
It means you put on the suit, you're the big guy.
It's ridiculous. I never put on a suit just to...
Try to understand this!
It's like Disney thought about how to make Scott Calvin take over Santa first, and the world building last. Because it seems like just any weirdo can be Santa in this universe, even those who killed the previous Kris Kringle, which is deeply concerning when this job involves entering houses and interacting with children. Now, I was expecting most of this film to be about the comedy hijinks of Tim Allen playing Santa, but instead, we're mainly just watching Scott transform into Santa and all the drama that causes. Am I the only one who found this aspect of the film kind of creepy? Just imagine losing control of your body like this, and doctors being powerless to help you. I get why little kids might find it funny, because Tim Allen is playing it for laughs, but I personally found it almost Cronenberg-esque.
How fast does hair grow? Facial hair. What? I shave in the morning, in the afternoon, I look like this.
But I also find it uncomfortable seeing how Scott's co-workers react to his weight gain. Yes, it must be shocking to see a colleague change that rapidly overnight, jarring even, but Scott's boss and co-workers full-on body shame him. Sure, fat phobia exists in the workplace, but the film never criticizes this behavior, and therefore it kind of ends up endorsing it.
I don't know what's happening to you. You're starting to look like the Pillsbury Doughboy.
Throughout the movie, Neil and Laura show concern about Scott looking more and more like Santa, because they assume that he's trying to change himself into someone Charlie idolizes. This is a rational reaction, seeing as they don't know that Scott really is Santa. From their perspective, Scott has really lost it. However, Scott never makes the effort to convince them otherwise. He has every opportunity to prove that he's the real Santa, yet he never takes that chance, and ends up losing his son in the process. You'd think that Scott would fight for his son by demonstrating his magic or taking Neil and Laura to the North Pole, but no, he acts completely powerless. You could argue that he just wants to keep his Santa identity a secret from the world, but he's already let complete strangers know that he's Santa.
Santa?
Scott Calvin.
And Laura eventually works everything out by the end.
It really is you. You really are Santa Claus.
It's all a bit confusing why he behaves like he can't do anything. What's worse is that when he's asked to deliver presents for the second Christmas day, he drags Charlie along for the ride, which isn't just technically kidnapping because of the custody separation, and unfair to Charlie's already distraught mother, but also completely pointless because Scott doesn't need Charlie's help. Any random elf could have gone with Scott instead. At the same time though, Neil is actively trying to interfere with her family's life.
What are we supposed to do?
Well, there's one obvious alternative.
Yes, I can see where he's coming from, but he's so eager to tear Scott apart from Charlie that it borders on villainy, and he never apologises for driving a wedge between the father and son.
Santa?
It's also bizarre how the film portrays Neil and Laura's lost faith in Santa as something seriously traumatic, all to justify why they selfishly refuse to let Charlie believe in Santa. Their opening up scene is played like they're unpacking a psyche-destroying childhood tragedy, when they're just talking about not getting a mystery dating board game and an Oscar Mayer wiener whistle for Christmas as kids. It just comes off as strange and unintentionally funny.
Oh, I got dozens of presents. Oh, I got everything. Except mystery date.
I was 3. And it was an Oscar Mayer weenie whistle.
So what about the film's puppetry? Well, that's where Santa's reindeers come in. These animatronics aren't that great, if I'm honest. They move so robotically that it's like you can see the electronics whirring under their fur, which took away the believability for me. But I guess these puppets are good enough to make kids see the magic. Plus the puppets are perhaps the best special effects in the film, because all the CGI effects really show their age. They're distractingly bad, tacky even. Computer effects still had a long way to go in 1994. Although good on the filmmakers for trying to experiment with early CGI back then. To conclude, The Santa Claus is certainly a whimsical and Christmassy film that's bound to give kids that magic December feeling, and it's nice that the film ends with Neil and Laura embracing their inner child. However, the movie is often just as uncomfortably weird as it's enchanting. For every sweet cutesy moment there's something nonsensical, dated, creepy or questionable straight after. I remember really enjoying this movie as a little boy whenever it was on TV, but once I watched this film without wearing my nostalgia goggles, I couldn't help but notice all the imperfections and flaws. I've been Jamboriki and I hope you enjoyed this review. If you did, then don't forget to click that like button. In the next episode of Puppet Panic, I'm going to be talking about adverts and commercials that use puppetry. Cheerio, folks.